Steve has just gone on vacation. Oh no, there he is. He's back. He's got it. He's got the cowboy hat. He's good to go. I thought you were
Yeah,
going on vacation there, Steve.
I was getting my come along coffee. Yes, sir. Come along coffee.
There we go. And if you don't know what come along coffee is probably the greatest invention of all time. It is the hybrid of mule and donkey life with coffee beans. And so I'll put a link in the comment section so y'all can go check it out. Hey, folks, my name is Dave. This is Steve Edwards. Every Wednesday, we get together to hang out a little bit and talk mules and donkeys. So we're grateful that you're here with us today, hanging out with us, spending some time watching on Facebook, watching on YouTube. Steve, how was the Andrada Ranch? You were down there for a stretch. How did it wind up going?
Oh man, I tell you, it was sad to see the cows go, but they needed to go. We actually took all the cows off of the Andrada, all but about 50 head, and we sent them to Kansas where the grass is belly high.
Are they going to love that?
Oh yeah, well we literally had no feed here in Arizona. In 10 months we barely had less than 3 inches, and we've got no grass. I mean, they've taken the Arizona alfalfa and just ate it down to nothing. I bet you wonder what our Arizona alfalfa is. It's prickly pear cactus.
No. No
I
thanks.
mean to tell you, it looks like a rototiller went through there and wiped them out. Because they're just no feed, so they're actually eating cactus right now,
Well,
or were.
well, glad they won't have to be digesting on the cactus. But until next season, folks, the way this works is all you've got to do. We show up every week and talk. All you have to do is tell us what you want us to talk about, and typically that involves mules or donkeys. Now, if for some reason you want us to talk about technology, well, that's an expertise of mine, and I can talk about a computer. And if you want to talk about fixing cars, that's an expertise of Steve's. He spent a lot of time fixing cars and is still at it. So, but we typically try to keep the conversation to mules and donkeys, and that's what we'll try to do here. Steve, let's just get right into it. Last week, one of the things that we wanted to talk about was equitation, and we didn't wind up getting time to talk about equitation, but I thought we could start off this week with that topic and the whole idea of sitting in the saddle. Why don't you go ahead and just share a little bit about what you've been talking to folks about when it comes to equitation?
I hadn't thought a whole lot about this having a sore rump until I hadn't ridden in a while. Uh, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh my, looks like we got a connecting problem.
I'm here. Are you able to see me?
Dave, are we live or
Can you
what?
see me? I'm here. Are you there?
Dave? Oh, Dave.
Looks like we may have a connection problem. Okay, we've got a connection problem. Let's see if we can get Steve back real quick. Okay, all right. Let's hang in there. As aforementioned, I am a tech guy, so we'll see if we can get Steve back on the line here and pick up where we left off. All right, let's call him. I feel like it's the what was it called with Ed McMahon, the $1 million sweepstakes, like showing up at the COVID version, and you're calling and like Skyping and Zooming people, waiting waiting to see if they pick. Hey, you've won a seat on Ask Steve Mule and Donkey Talk. I don't know if that would be a huge get for the majority of the world, but I know if it happened to y'all, y'all would be excited. All right, here he is. All right, Steve, can you see me? Can you hear me?
This cotton picking the internet.
So many things are possible because of it, yet there are so many things that frustrate us as well.
Yeah. Well, well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna find we're supposed to be on this here cable stuff and supposed to have real fast speeds. And I just checked it before I come online, and it said my the tortoise out in front was faster than the speed that I've got here now.
Well, yeah, we'll see if we can handle it. We'll see if we can keep it going here. So you were talking. Let's just pick it up off the equitation. You were talking about the equitation. Let's go from there.
Okay, so many people say, well, you're really positive about these saddle fitting the mules, which I am, but what about fitting me? here it is, folks. Fitting you is going to be up to you. The basic industrial standards, the way a saddle is made, is pretty much what goes throughout the whole saddle industry, period. The way the seat is and this sort of thing. You have to remember that the bars have to be so wide to fit an animal, and the seat there depends on a lot of things. But for me, it's a deep seat with a 4-inch cantle, and I prefer a hard seat, unpadded, and a lot of folks prefer the padded seat. Now, here's the thing. I had both my hips replaced 7 years ago now, I think it is, and I hadn't been in a saddle for over 5 years, and I had no idea that I was going to have such a tough comeback. It wasn't too bad, but I was still pretty sore. Not just my rump, but my legs and my knees and this sort of thing, and then my lower back. Well, I started seeing then that when I was walking with my hips the way they were, I was walking crooked and putting pressure on different things. Well, I had to literally learn how to ride almost all over again, Dave, and it was tough. But once your stirrups are adjusted correctly and you're sitting in the seat, you should be able to have your heels down, toes up. I prefer to ride with my whole boot in the stirrup, not just sitting on the balls of your feet. Now, as we did, Dave, at the clinic, I had people stand on the balls of their feet, and everybody went forward. On their heels, everybody went back. Clip of that or not, but that was something that is what people got to understand. It's not, if you're sitting in a seat and you're having problems, you need to adjust your legs, your stirrup. Now, I have clients that, it's mostly all ladies, because they got little pin bones in their hind ends, and that does create a problem. Okay, so I got a lot of ladies that will buy a hard seat saddle, and they'll buy a variety of pads. Because here's what I found, and this is amazing: the different type of jeans that you wear or riding pants that you wear create a different way of sitting in the saddle. I never would have thought about it, because I'm always riding in jeans and chaps, by the way, so that makes me set the saddle a whole lot different. But we have a lot of folks a lot of ladies especially, that ride in riding tods, they call them, or something like this. It's a problem. So, I said all that. Yes, having the right size seat is going to be really important. How much room you have between the pommel and the cantle. And I can't get away with saying this to a lady, no matter how I say it, but it's not our rump size, folks. It's our thigh size, And even at your thigh size, it's still not going to be what we may call a perfect fit. Randy Figgins down at the Andrada, he likes to ride in a 15.5. And since I don't have any half sizes, he's riding in a 16 with some bucking rolls, and he likes a snug seat. Myself, I like to be able to move around in the saddle a lot. Now, I'm riding a bronc, then it's going to be a different story. I'm going to put on my bucking rolls, and I'm going to ride tight, but I'm riding in broncs no more. So going on, folks, here's the other thing too, is exercise, exercise, exercise. Have you ever watched anybody go get in the saddle? It's pretty funny in a lot of ways. I call it the Wrangler dance, because they're stretching their pants and they're picking up on their jeans, and then they go to pick up on their leg to put it in stirrup, trying to get their jeans loosened up. And it's kind of funny how folks seem to do that. So I would only suggest, folks, if you're having lower back problems or knee problems, hip problems, and this sort of thing, the one thing I like about my Trail Light saddle, it really helped me through, because I didn't have the stiffness of the legs. My fenders do swing; they do swing good, but the Cordura was so soft and easy for me to ride. Within a short time, I was starting to ride with little to no pain. And then I went to my my ultralight saddle, and my goodness, it's all leather, and that is real nice. And again, folks, I ride a hard seat. The guys tend to, with a soft seat, they tend to lean forward in the saddle. Gals tend to step back. It's a difference in our pelvis. With guys with a hard seat, they seem to sit down in the saddle. And if you look at my saddles, the pictures I have on my website, you can see you're sitting down in the saddle. Most of your saddles are made for arena riding. You're kind of sitting a little bit more on top because you're posting a lot. Okay. Now, so let's go back to this posting. We're using our legs and we're going with the rhythm of the animal. So you should have your legs slightly bent, where we're going to call it creating a shock absorber feeling. Shock absorber feeling. So you're using your legs to help you ride in the saddle and not just sitting flat on your rump. Okay, so there you go. I have some ladies that'll buy the wool seat and put it on one day, then one day they say, no, not what I want today. Then they put it on a perforated neoprene seat. Okay, that some of them have paddings for your needs. The best thing I can tell you to do, exercise, do like I do, try to push away from the table. It's getting tougher. You know, the older I get, the harder it falls down.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, real quick, one thing I'm going to do just to preserve bandwidth, I'm going to turn off my video so you won't see me anymore, but I'll still be here. So just FYI, we'll see if that helps the connection a little bit. So equitation is something that we get a lot of questions about, and that's why Steve wanted to go ahead and just share a little bit about some of the things that you need to know when you're sitting in the saddle. And so we'll go ahead and let's make sure that we're saying hello to everybody who's hanging out with us today. We got a lot of folks watching in over on Facebook and YouTube. We've got Linda, the mule servant, and Theo, the sweet one-eyed mule in breezy 50 degrees rural central Ohio. We've got Kathy watching from Elephant Butte, New Mexico. Good to have you, Kathy. Farah is watching in Utah, says, I got part of my order today. Excited to put it all together. We're excited for you too, Farah. Make sure you send in pictures. Linda says those cows are going to explode with all of that Arizona alfalfa. Beth is watching, says, hi guys, in between storms in central North Carolina. I'm working my way through your videos. Can you clarify your thoughts about hobbling mules? I thought I recalled in these live chats that you have said not to, but I'm hearing you reference it in your video. Thank you. Steve, a couple comments about hobbling mules.
Okay, what is hobbling? Hobbling can be a variety of things. The first thought is hobbling the two front feet. Now you can hobble them above the knees, you can hobble them down by the pasterns. Now, or you can hobble from well, let me just start with this one first. So why do you hobble? You hobble so that the mule stands still and quiet. Let's just say I need to get off and go visit a bush, all right? And so I hobble my mule, and I tie one rein on the horn, the other one I have hanging on the ground. I go back and find the bush, and then I come back. Or I hobble my mule, and I go and I check my pack outfits and see what's going on there. So what do? I hobble my mule just for a short time to be able to go do what I needed to do. The hobbling the front feet is not for grazing. It is not to keep a mule from pawing. It's not for that. There are other ways of doing it. If Nick West would see me hobble one up just because he's pawing at the hitching rail, he'd say, look, you're ruining what those hobbles are meant for. You know, and he cowboyed all his life. And so, and who knows, probably designed hobbles. But if you got one pawing, then you're going to hobble above both legs and chains are going to come down. Now, I got a little secret for you. Here it comes. Randy Figgins down there at the Andrada, heck of a saddle maker, custom made saddle maker, and this sort of thing. If you really want a super heavy saddle, super good custom made, Randy can fix you up. Anyway, going on. We are now starting to make the orange hobbles that we designed close to 40 years ago, and we're putting them out there. And also, we're going to start introducing and selling the leg hobbles for animals that are pawing. So anyway, that's just a little sideline. Now, one other thing. If we're going to hobble one for grazing, we're going to hobble a left front, a right rear, and we're going to tie a rope between and adjust it so that the mule only scoots. Otherwise, here's what happens, folks. When they're not trained properly, hobble the 2 front feet, that mule will run all the way back to the truck, with ease with the hobbles on. Yes, they will. So don't do that. So I hope that answered your question.
One of those deals where it's a good example of, hey folks, if you've got the question, ask the question, because what we might be talking about, asking one or talking for one person one week, exactly like Beth's saying, well, hey, in this video you're saying to do this, but in previous conversations you've said to do that. Well, ask the question, because we might have been answering regarding circumstances for that particular person, and your circumstances are going to be different. So very good. Thank you for asking that, Beth. Appreciate it. Herman is watching from Arizona. Hello there, Herman. Good to see you again. Ginger is watching, says, I can't stay because I have a meeting, but it's storming and warm in Georgia this afternoon. So thank you, Ginger, for chiming in there, giving us the weather update. Very much appreciate it. We always love getting weather updates from our mule and donkey friends. Let's see here. Yolanda says, Steve's gone again. Oh, Steve's just back and forth, back and forth. Folks say, hey, I called. I left a voicemail on Steve's voice. I said, well, he's traveling. He's going here. He's going there. He's going to get back to you as soon as he can. So Steve's going all over the place all the time. Jack is watching from Johannesburg, 30 degrees and snowflakes falling gently. That sounds delightful. Polly is watching from Barnesville, Minnesota, 32 degrees, chilly, and a cold wind. That does not sound as delightful as snowflakes gently falling. Kiki is watching in Oregon, 63 degrees, sunny, almost as gorgeous as a donkey or a mule. No mention of snow there, so I'm guessing that it's looking pretty good up there. Yep, there. That's right, Queen Valley. That's our weather. 86. Come on out, folks. Enjoy a weekend at the Fairmont Princess up in North Scottsdale. It's a fantastic place. Renata is watching. I just rode your lightweight mule saddle this morning at a riding lesson on Mammoth Donk. Hey, I think we're going to need to see proof, Renata. We're going to need to see proof. Send in some photos. Let's make prove it, Renata. Brad is watching from Nanton, Alberta. Here we go. We've gone international. Christian is watching from Lakewood, Colorado. Let's see here. Ron from Ohio says it's mild weather in the 40s, and I have a question. I've been using the come-along hitch on my mule Daisy. She does real well in the round pen, but not real good outside of the pen. She wants to crowd me and get ahead of me, leading her back to the barn. Any suggestions, Ron?
Timing, timing, timing. Folks, here's the perfect reason I say to you, before you get in the saddle, learn to handle the come-along rope. Learn how to use the rope halter with the lead rope. Do those first before you get in line, because here it is. If the mule is already on top of you, it's not the come-along's fault. It's not the mule's fault. It is my fault, because my timing wasn't there. It is imperative, you all, you learn your timing. When you see that mule bring his head up, he says, I am coming your way. Think about that. Fix it before it becomes a problem. If I don't know what you're doing in a round pen necessarily, but here's the thing. If you watch some of my videos on ground foundation training, you'll see the first thing I teach the mule is get your feet quiet. First thing. Second thing, I come into your space, you don't come into my space. That's number 2. Number 3, when I am leading you, you will be, when I look over my right shoulder, you'll be right here. Your nose would be just behind my right shoulder, about 3 foot from me. Hear that? 3 foot, maybe 4 at the most. Don't hold your mule up close. If you hold your mule up close, that mule is going to be on top of you. Use 3 to 4 foot. Like it says in the video, watch the problem mule video that comes with the kit. Now, folks, I have this all the time. I had a guy the other day call me and said, hey, I didn't get my video with my come along rope. And I said, no, to get the video, you got to buy the kit. The kit is we've lowered it in price so that you can buy the come along rope, the rope halter, and the video. Listen, how many people do you know send you a video how to do it with a rope and a halter? I want you to be able to understand it. So let's go back, do your timing, figure out your timing. Now, we talked about number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, what's the next part right here? And this is it. When this mule is wanting to crowd me, my feet are going to stand still. I am not going to go at the mule. I am going to bump, 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 and get this mule to understand this is my space, this is your space. Follow those directions. It'll be pretty simple for you. Timing, timing, timing. If you can't do it, don't get in the saddle, folks.
Awesome. One of the things that I say this just about every week, and it's because we have so many new folks who join us every single Wednesday. But there's a lot of stuff that we have on the muleranch.com website that's free. That's our favorite F word around here, is free. And we drop it all of the time. We're constantly putting new stuff for free out at muleranch.com. There's really nothing that we tell folks you need to buy, because we trust you to ask the questions. We'll give you the answers and then let you make the decision for yourself. However, there is one thing that we tell you to buy, and it's really for your safety and it's for your benefit. And that's not us saying it. That's people saying it who have followed this advice, and that is to buy the Ground Foundation starting kit. If you're watching right now and you have the Ground Foundation starting kit, just in the comment section, tell folks what a difference it's made. That is your go-to when you're doing your ground foundation. That is your go-to when you're trying to get halter training. That is your go-to when you're trying to get them to respect the halter, when you're doing a tune-up. That's your go-to when you're having trouble getting them to pick up the feet, when you're having trouble doing shoeing work, when you're having anything. That's going to be your go-to, is the rope halter and the come-along rope, and it comes with that video. So I put a link in the comment section so folks can go check that out. Continuing right along here, Jackie from Placitas, New Mexico is watching. Sunny, 57 degrees here today. Warmer days ahead. Sandy is watching from Morongo, Missouri, or Montana. We've got David Cantor's lovely day here in Port Angeles, Washington. Yolanda says, I ride a hard seat. I ride a hard seat too. Boy, did I get hurt on my butt. But a great seat and sheepskin did the trick. Ha 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 ha. That's Yolanda. We love Yolanda. Charlene is watching, says, hey, I got the come-along rope in the mail the other day. I tried it on the 13-hand jack I told you about, and my mind was blown. Didn't take long for him to figure out that one. Only had to get to the demanding level a few times. I had a little difficulty getting him to stand still when I wanted his feet, but not too shabby. He got it after a handful of tries. I'm so stoked. Charlene, we're so glad to hear that. Now, I wish I could say that that's the case for everybody every time. It's not the truth. Mules are different, and their temperaments, their disposition is going to be different and all over the place. But one thing that I've heard Steve say is stay with it, ask, tell, demand, patience, don't overtrain, train in 3s, 6s, 9s, and 12s, and give that a go. That's the way you want to do it. So we're glad to hear when it comes pretty easy right off the bat. If it doesn't come easy for some of you watching, that's normal. That happens. Just keep with it and let us know what we can do to help you. Let's see. Myra is watching from warm and windy Southern California. Let's see. Cowboy Ken is watching from Connecticut, 55 degrees and cloudy. Julie in Kentucky is watching from a 50-degree weather today. Ted is watching, just says, SoCal, great weather. Enough said. Linda says, Steve, when a mule misbehaves, and one thing I said about Linda last week, and it just holds true, Linda is curious. If we had more people in this world who were just curious about creation, curious about one another, curious about each other's stories, I think this world would be a much better place. And I love that you're curious, Linda. When a mule misbehaves, you often say that it isn't the mule's fault. He's trying to protect himself. When you are meeting a mule for the very first time and it is misbehaving, what steps do you, Steve Edwards, go through to determine whether the mule is protecting himself or it's simply a case of poor temperament? Have you been doing this so long that you don't do it without thinking? Or are there specific things that a newbie mule buyer can look for to tell an uncomfortable, fearful mule from a pure troublemaker? Should one use the come-along hitch or perhaps rope halter when evaluating a new mule? That's a great question. Steve, what do you have to say?
Boy, she is just good for her.
Yeah.
Number one, folks, look, when I go to approach a mule, I watch them. They've got no halter. There's nothing on them. When I go to approach a mule, I am squared-shouldered. I'm erect right up, and I watch the shoulder, and I watch the head. And I walk straight to it, and that's where I go. For my first howdy, this is who I am. Now, if that mule is looking at me, he's saying, come on, visitation's over. If he looks away, I stop. I don't keep on going, because if he looks at me and looks back, he's thinking, okay, now you want me to go because now he's looking this way. I just taught him to go. Okay, so that's number one. I teach the mule to be able to stand still without the halter. Okay, watch me. Next thing, I don't go to the rope halter first. Always go to the come-along hitch. Always. First thing I go to. Your come-along hitch, you should use it for your first 6 months of this is who I am. You want to build a firm foundation. Folks, when it comes to these mules and donkeys, they have flight and fright in their mind. They can start it as simple as head raised up. That's the first thing that says, I'm out of here. I don't want to be around you. Don't spend time with me. As soon as you see that head raised up, then you should be going bump, bump, bump right after. Don't allow them to give you that type of an attitude, okay? Don't allow him to do that. We've got a mule right now we're training on. He pins his ears at you. But when he pins his ears at me, all heck breaks loose. All hell breaks loose. Because he pins his ears at me, I'm going to yell and scream, throw my hands up, and I'm going to go after him. Yeah, get out of here. You know. Now, if I got my hands on the come-along hitch, I will try to rip his nose off. Because here's the deal. When they pin your ears at you, they're saying, I am the boss. Yes, I am the boss. I've got these folks, and I've had a lot of them, but just one particular right now. The mule has been getting away with this. Well-trained, highly sought-after, racking-type mule. Awesome mule. The problem is these folks folks do it all the time. Trainers are not. They overlook how to fix the mental problems. They overlook that. They're more interested. You can hear the guy just talking about riding, using his spurs and riding, but yet the mule is all the time saying, I don't like what I'm doing. All right, if the mule don't like what I'm doing, he needs to get used to it. So this is what I do. When I'm in the saddle and I've got my mule rider's martingale, if I get a bad attitude, right, left, right, left, right, left. Right brain, listen to me. Left brain, listen to me. That's what I do. Now, the next time, you heard a couple of people say this already this morning, today, I don't have to go to the demanding stage. At first, I have to go to the demanding stage right away because I got a sorry attitude. I will not take a sorry attitude because after the pinning into the ears comes what? Biting. After biting comes spinning and kicking. I don't want to be bit. I don't want to be spun and kicked on. So as soon as them ears are starting to be pinned back, I will be all over them. I will do it. Now, the come-along hitch is what I use. And folks, listen. No such thing as a trained mule. What do you mean, Steve? No such thing as a trained mule. Here it is. You build a foundation, a firm foundation, and then after that, you're the one that does the training because you're going to handle the lead rope different than me. Like I talked about earlier, and get this in your mind. It's your timing, how your timing presents itself with the lead rope. So when it comes down to these mules and their attitudes, they got a good attitude. They're wanting to keep their head down. They're wanting to be submissive. I will use my come along rope small in a minimal way. I go to a new place and go camping. Guess what? I'm not going to put a rope halter on that thing to lead him around. I'm going to put my come along hitch to lead him around, because here's what happens. Everything's new. Oh, there's something over there. Oh, there's something over there. Oh, there's something over there. Use the come along hitch because it will help you to say, don't look over there, don't look over here, listen to me. That's what you do. Trained or not, folks, when they go to a new place, they will change their attitude, and you need to have the ability to say, it's not going to happen. You will have the ability to say, good for you. Good job. Good for you. That's good. That's good. How do you do that? You don't make it hard on them. If they make it hard on you, you make it hard on them. Keep that in your mind. Now, again, I'm in a new place. I go to a new campground, or I'm going to go move cows down at the Andrada, or I go hunting someplace. What am I going to do? Out comes my mule rider's martingale. Out comes that mule rider's martingale right away. Not my finished bridle, because here's the problem. You may be closing a gate really nice, and golly, you're getting the gate closed, and the cows are staying in, but guess what? The mule's head is real high, and the mouth is opening up. You didn't communicate to the mule softly and correctly. You got your job done, you closed the gate. You got your job done, you moved the cow. But the mule paid the price, and he's trying to tell you by his head's elevated. So folks, listen, when you pick up on them reins, you pick them up in such a way that you're communicating, not yelling. So hopefully, Linda, that big old story I just gave you will help you out.
Very good. So next question that we got here, this one comes all the way from, let's see, Belgium. So we've gone international all over again. This is Serge watching from Belgium, says, how do you prevent abscess on the sabot, I think is how you say it, which is shoe? How do you prevent abscess on the shoe?
Well, if he's saying the shoe, okay, how do I prevent that? What I do is the inside of the shoe, I take my hammer and I put a bevel in all the way around. And then when I set the shoe down, I look at the sole and the shoe together. And I look and make sure there's no place that the shoe is touching the sole. That's what I do. I make sure. So I take and I will only cut out just enough sole so that I see there's no pressure on there. That's what I do. Now, it's really easy, to get a problem like that. I mean, you can get a stone and get a stone bruise. You can get a sticker, something like that as well. So there's lots of little things that would cause that. But when it comes down to shoes, you need to take, the shoe is already beveled, but I always bevel it more. So I cut it at a bevel instead of being flat. I take it, my hammer, and tap all the way on the inside, and then I look at the shoe fitting to the sole, and I make sure nothing's touching.
Great. Thanks for asking that, Serge. Good to have you joining us. Greg is watching. Greg and Diane from St. Peters, Missouri. Sunny and 50 degrees. Freezing warning tonight. So cover those plants. There you go. So if you are in the St. Peters, Missouri area, there's a freeze warning tonight. Get those plants covered up. Lamar is watching, says, hi, Steve and Dave. Lamar here from Price, Utah. 50 degrees and sunny. Steve, what is a good measurement when showing mules? From the hairline to the end of the hoof tip, times I don't know if you have to steep or sand or didn't take enough hoof off.
Okay, so he's looking for balance of the hoof. So here's the hoof. What angle am I going to put the hoof at? Here's the front of the hoof right here. Here's the back of the hoof right here. So What angle am I going to put the toe at so that my mule will walk correctly, okay? And it is not a measurement, folks. The folks that, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I used to use a lot a hoof protractor. And basically I just went up into the hoof like this, and this right here gave me my measurement, and I seen what angle it was, and I took the other foot and I did the same angle, all right? Then your mule travels correctly. I look at the slope of the shoulder. Look at the slope of the shoulder. The slope of the shoulder tells you the angle of the foot in the front, angle of the foot in the back. Okay? So that looking at that, those two, that's what I do. Now, does it take you a while to set and study that angle of the shoulder? Yeah. And then to study the angle of the foot? Yes. Okay? Now, as you go and doing this, as you do it more and more and more, you'll get to where it's a piece of cake for you, pretty easy. But don't go by, I mean, if you need to go by measurements, you know, for you yourself until you get at the idea of using a protractor, yes, go ahead and do that. But pretty soon you'll understand that you use the slope of the shoulder to determine the slope of the hoof on your mules.
Very good. Moving right along here, continuing on, we've got Dale watching from Oklahoma says, Steve, do you offer a tune-up video after mules have been laid off most of the winter?
Yes, sirree. Yep, it's called ground foundation training. Yes, come along rope halter, training video. Now, that's groundwork. The next thing is, and that's you and the mule. The next thing is, yes, mule rider's martingale, using a surcingle. Folks, I cannot tell you enough that you need to use a surcingle and a rope or a halter properly adjusted to start with, and then a martingale. That right there tunes you up. Before I ride anything, as my first part of my foundational training is to fix the mule so that he's balanced, framed up. Top of the hip, top of the wither, top of the head, and nose on the vertical. When they're balanced and framed up like that, that gets their hind end up underneath them, it rounds out their back. Good for the mule, good for the rider. Because when the head is elevated, that hollows out the back, and instead of having a spine hitting nice and tight, it's like this, and it's tipped like this. Not good. Okay, next part. When the nose is on the vertical, that mule's nose on the vertical, he is listening to the bridle. When his tongue is out wagging around and looking around, guess what we did? We put the bit up too high. You always start out with the snaffle bit, my mule rider's martingale. You put the bit down low, teach the mule to reach up the bit, pick it up, and pack it. You will do that for the next 6 months when you're training, and as you're going through life. I never ever with my mule rider's martingale, I never ever adjust it creating 1 wrinkle or 2 wrinkles. I don't do that. What I do is allow the mule to pick up the bit and pack it. They will learn then to get their head down, nose on the vertical. So that's my tune-up training. Groundwork, groundwork, groundwork. You cannot do enough of it. The next thing is the surcingle with the rope halter to start with. Why the rope halter to start with? Because the rope halter puts pressure in certain places. The mule and the donkey respond better from the nose when you're doing foundational training. So once they get their nose on the vertical and they're framed up and they're being consistent with it every time, 3, 6, 9, 12 times, when they're getting consistent, put the bridle on, the mule rider's martingale. Then have them ride with that around 3, 6, 9, 12. Then if you're going to do your finished bit, you're going to use the trail rider bit, for instance, you put that bit in their mouth and have them do the same thing. It's just because you got the bit and it's supposed to be right doesn't mean it's not important to do your groundwork to start with for my what I call my tune-up.
Awesome. Thank you for the question. Very good.
Good question.
Let's jump down here. Let's keep moving on. We've got Rick watching from Minnesota. Cinda is watching from upstate New York, cold and rainy, calling for a snowstorm tonight. Stay warm. Jim is watching from Allenwood, Colorado. Kendall, Ireland. Let's see, sun shining all day. There we go. Allenwood. Oh, hi from Allenwood, Colorado. Kendall Care, Ireland. Is this Colorado
Ireland?
or is this Ireland or is it? Am I missing something?
It sounds like it's from Ireland to me. I
Ireland.
don't know.
Hey, if it's Ireland, we'll give the glockenspiel there. We've gone international again. Jim, let me know. Let's see here. Karen is watching from Central Virginia. Rain today, so a short lesson for my 4-year-old Molly Sage. Happy to be able to watch live. Samantha says, hi, finally caught one of these videos live. We hear that a lot, Samantha. We're glad you're here. Dusty and terribly windy in Afghanistan. Oh, Steve, have you had a chance to connect with Samantha yet? She is in our armed services deployed over in Afghanistan.
Wow, no, but I would like to connect with her. Absolutely. Thank you very much for your service, Samantha. Wow, congratulations. Hey, tell you what, Dave, let's get her information, send her a couple of digital training DVDs, like maybe how to communicate as a thank you from Queen Valley Mule Ranch and serving our country.
You hear that, Samantha? Just send me a message back. Let me know what email you want me to set up an account for, and we'll take care of you. Thank you so much for your service. It's just something that we'd love to do for you. Let's see here. She says, I look forward to getting home to my new mule and building our relationship through the basics. Love these videos. Sherry is watching from Mazomane, Wisconsin. Ross from Emmett, Idaho. Cindy from Rainy, Tennessee. Sherry says, I've been working with my mule to pick up her feet. She stands on the one I want. She stands on the one I want. She stands on the one I want to try to lift when I try. I'm getting it all mixed up. You get what she's saying, though, right? She's standing on the one she wants to try and lift.
Yeah, we got a really good little video on how to do that. You'll see me using the come along hitch. You'll see me taking my quirk and tapping. Listen to this, folks. This is important. Never pull on the foot. Don't pull to get it up. That mule, when you cue it, it should do it. That one video that we have of Randy, and we're down at the Andrada Ranch, and he's using his one mule, Liz, and I'm teaching how to pick up the feet. That's a good one out there folks can look at. I just sent it to somebody today. That's the reason I knew about it. But never, folks, listen, don't pull on a mule or a donkey. Not the reins, not the halter, not the feet. Don't do that. As soon as you pull on them, they will brace you. And right now, this mule thinks she's got the post in the ground, and that's what will happen. Folks, these mules, when you pull on them, you're going to teach them the opposite of what you want. It's going to happen. You may get it done like I was talking about earlier with the bridle. You may get your gate closed. You may get them turned. You may get them backed. But if their head is up and their mouth is open, you may have got that done, but you created 5 or 6 more problems that your mule is going to have.
Very good. Steve, the next question that we've got, this one was emailed in. It came from Brenda. And Brenda had the question. 3 years ago, I purchased a wild Jenny that had been used to teach people how to rope on. 13 months later, she delivered me Wonky, a male donkey that is now 2 years old, and I had him halter broke when he was. And then last year, he was trying to breed and get to his mom. I had to separate him when he was about 9 months old. But anyways, the vet came and gave him shots, etc., etc. And now I had made an appointment to get him neutered. But when I tried to halter him, he lets me put the halter halfway on. And since it's only me trying to do this to the backs out of it, and then he is gone, and the rest of the day was me limping around trying to catch him. The vet canceled because he won't be haltered. I'm wondering if you know anybody in Prescott that would be able to come here and help me. I want to turn both donkeys out on 1 1/2 acre. He wants to breed with his mom. Any help or suggestions?
Don't turn them out in a pasture, folks. Don't do that. They don't need to be out there in a pasture, even if there's no feed out there. They don't need to have the run to get away from you. Keep your mules in a separate stall. This donkey should have had his brain surgery should have been brain surgery, i.e. castrated, back when his testicles dropped. As soon as they drop, folks, don't go wait until they're 2 years old or 5 months old or whatever it is. If the testicles are dropped, you castrate them and you take out the wolf tooth right away. Get it done. Brain surgery then kicks in gear. Otherwise, folks, it's called natural. When the donkey comes in heat, mom or not, that jack is going to breed him. Okay, what to do? Don't use a halter. Don't use a halter. Come along hitch, come along hitch, come along hitch. Use the come along hitch. Put the donkey in a small pen and keep him there. That donkey can hurt you. Listen, folks, this is not a pretty sight to have a lady be in the tough time of the year and tough time of the month and have a donkey try to breed him. And I'm sorry I had to say that, but it will happen, folks. I mean, I could tell you some awful stories that you don't want to hear. You take these jacks and you castrate them right away. It's imperative, okay? So, number one, put them in a small pen. Number two, use the come-along rope. Nothing else but come-along rope. With a young animal. Go. Did I lose you?
I'm here. It broke out for a second.
Oh, okay.
You were saying, come along rope, come along rope, come along rope.
And a small, and no pasture. Don't put them out there. Even if there's nothing for them to eat, they don't need you. Keep them in a small place where you can keep track of them.
Awesome. All right, let's keep moving on here. We got a message from Denny. Denny said, hope you're doing well. Denny from Pangburn, Arkansas, was wondering if you had time for a quick question. Always, Denny. I have 2 female donkeys that are really a good couple of old gals until it's time to trim the hooves. Sweet Pea is a real trooper and gives up her feet and lets you do whatever. Dottie, on the other hand, has a real issues with giving up her back feet. It turns into ear-twisting rodeo. So I was wondering if you think I should use one of your rope halters instead of a nylon halter for horses from TSC. Thank you very much.
Never, ever, ever use a nylon halter, even on your horses, folks. The rope halter is the best one when it's adjusted correctly, but especially with mules and donkeys. Do not use a nylon halter, and especially don't use chains on them, and banging on them. Don't do that. use the come-along rope. Do the ground foundation. Again, Dave, we probably talked about this 5 or 6 times during this hour. Folks, ground communication kit. Number one thing. If you can't do it on the ground, you're not going to do it in the saddle. If you can't do it on the ground, you're not going to do it driving them. Get their hold of their nose, and when you work with a donkey's nose, you work with a mule's nose, you're going to do good. Now, we got some video of picking up the feet, and the same thing on a mule as it is as a donkey. You bring the foot forward first, straight back and over the left. One of the biggest problems with people working on the feet of a donkey or a mule is we pick up the back foot like a horse and not like a donkey. That's really, really important because the donkey bone structure is in your mule. So whatever I tell you to do on the mule, you do it with a donkey. Whatever I tell you to do with the donkey, you do it in the mule. Okay? There you go.
Very good. This is a follow-up from Todd. Todd had a question last week. And so he says, just a follow-up after a week of extremely rewarding work. I used the come along with great success. I have purchased a halter from you and will get that fitted next. On the turning out to pasture problem I was having, I do not have a 20 by 20 that I can put her in, and she actively tries to destroy my barn if I take everyone out but her. My solution was to adapt your idea and thinking to my ranch. I have a smaller side pasture where I can turn her out by herself away from other horses and mules. She has taken wonderfully to this and is no longer pulling out of my hands. Part of my solution was to not fight. I grounded her rope after I walked to the pasture. At first she walked off, but now she just waits for me to close the gate and take off her rope. My wife thinks I'm kind of cool now. I know I have a great little mule and will continue to work with her. I'm also going to put the round pin in after seeing how important they are to working with equine in general. Keep the advice coming and thank you for your help. There you go, Steve. Anything? Oh, I think we lost Steve for a second. We got him there. Really good smile, though. That's probably the best smile we've ever had of Steve Edwards coming in on this. Steve, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There he is.
Yes.
Any comments you want to say there for Todd?
No, good for Todd. He figured it out. Come along hitch. He had another alternative thing. Good. 20 by 20, folks. If you don't have one, that's more important than a round pin. Is round pin important? Yes. But if especially to keep one tuned and this sort of thing, a 40-foot round pin is great. Now, if you got a 20 by 20 stall separate from your stable, where your mule lives, you got a separate 20 by 20 stall that you can use. You don't necessarily have to have it round. The thing about a round pin is it keeps them from hiding in corners. They'll go put their head in the corner and say, I'm not here. But they can't do that in a round pin. Good for you.
Awesome.
Congratulations, Todd.
Let's keep going here. We've got Linda says rope halter and come along rope are also the go-to when you want to fool around with your mule and mess and have fun, but you're too lazy to tack up. There you go. Let's see. Ron says, thanks for your advice, Steve. It's appreciated. Myra says, the come along rope and rope halter have made communication with my mules and working with my mules very efficient without needing to use a lot of muscle. Chris asked the question, what's your advice for getting the nervousness out of a mule? He desires to please, but is just plain nervous. I would love your opinion on this. Thanks, Steve.
Well, we got to first look at the feed. What's your feeding program looking like? I can tell you, folks, that if you feed grain or a lot of carbohydrates where they sit around, you're up a creek. If you put them out in a pasture where there's a lot of carbohydrates, that makes these mules plumb crazy. It's like giving crack cocaine to a cocaine addict. So let's go on. The next thing is, it's pure D, their nature. Worried about everything, trying to please, but yet at the same time worried about something. So, folks, you cannot take out what the nature is in there. You get a lot of mules a lot of mules. We used to have it years ago. It was the biggest thing that we had. The mule didn't want to get along with anybody. I mean, we had to deal with things like that all the time. It was a constant thing. So, when it comes down to these mules, you can't change their nervousness. It can't do it unless it's a feed problem. So you might want to think about that. Now, I can tell you that I've ridden mules up and down the Grand Canyon and around Yosemite and this sort of thing, and they see a lot of people on the ground. And you'll take a mule that is nervous about people, and you think, okay, let's just show them people, and they'll see enough people, and finally they'll get it. Oh, yeah? How many people do you have to show them? Oh yeah? How many rattlesnakes? You got to see, you don't desensitize these animals to people and stuff. Now some animals, I got to tell you, that will just love everybody. And then you get some of them that are nervous around people. You find just the right person where that mule gets along with their attitude, and away you go. Sometimes, folks, we need to cut our losses and find a mule that fits our nature. That's important.
Got another question here. This one's from Connie. She emailed this and she says, Steve, I have a 12-year-old large standard part mammoth donkey who has laminitis twice, most recently last October. Besides working with our vet and farrier, we contacted an equine nutritionist who has made some great recommendations for supplements. Right now, we have to soak his hay because of really high iron content. Blood tests have shown insulin and leptin resistance, and now we are testing to see if he has Cushing's or EMS. He's only 12, but has abscessed every year since the first episode of laminitis, always in late summer or early fall. That's the background. My question is this. Do you recommend some kind of trail boot for donkeys who have tender feet or nerve damage from laminitis? If so, is there one made to fit donkeys? He is sound right now, thank the Lord, but I want to keep him moving. Any suggestions you have?
Well, I never like to suggest boots for any of these animals because I have seen some pretty tough tendons where they get bow tendons because the boot moves around too much. No, there's not a boot that works very well for mules or donkeys. The best thing you can do, laminitis is a separation, okay? So here's the outside wall, here's the lamina right here, and right here is the coffin bone. So the lamina protects the coffin bone. It's like a shock absorber right here. What it does is it breaks down to where you don't have the cushion. All right, so what would I do? Your shoer should be able to know how to do this. I actually turn the shoe around backwards. I shoe them, okay? And I use only 4 nails, and that's all in the very front. So I take my shoe and I turn it around so that the open part, which is called the branches, are pointing toward the front. Normally they point toward the back. I turn them that way, and that way it supports the heel, and you can also build a bar shoe too, but that's another story. Depends on your farrier and how good he is with doing corrective shoeing. So let's go on. By doing that, you'll get the support, but you can also have the support on the trail. Folks, boots don't work on mules, donkeys, and not really even on horses, and especially in your trail riding. You got a variety of ups and downs and rocks and things like this, and them feet move around in there. And I can tell you I've seen some awful sore tendons and other problems with them. So that'd be my suggestion. Tell your farrier. Now, the laminitis most likely is just in the front feet only. There's a possibility. Will diet help? I have heard yes and no's. Can we find out how laminitis comes, of why the problem is? I've heard a variety. I've gone through all kinds of classes and stuff, and we're getting new information too. But nutrition, yes, nutrition is always extremely important with your donkeys and your mules. The 2 donkeys that I got from Gary Green, they had a lot of heavy fat pockets when we got them. He was feeding them Lake and Light, but the one thing Gary wasn't able to do, which we did, was give them a lot of exercise. We've reduced those fat pockets down to maybe 10% of what they originally was, where they were really horrible. So they're down to just next to nothing, and that's because of exercise and riding. We've also got a couple fat mules that was brought to us from Bill up here in Wyoming, and they're a lot thinner now, Bill. Anyway, see you later. Try that out.
Awesome. Sherry is watching from Minnesota. Alan, Sherry, we love listening to you guys. We are just trying to apply what you share. Glad to hear it. Thanks, guys. Mary is watching from Arkansas. Samantha over in Afghanistan says, how much interaction is too much interaction with your mule? I'll live on the same property as her for the first 3 months after I redeploy. Was planning to spend 30-ish minutes each morning grooming. Any comments there, Steve, for Sam?
Sam, you're doing the right thing. Old Tom Dorrance used to say, sometimes a brush is better than riding. And what that amounts to is you're on the ground, you're feeling good about the brushing, the mule's feeling good about the brushing, and that's a wonderful thing. The next thing is take the mule for a walk, put the come along hitch on, go for a nice walk. Maybe walking through the woods and climb over top of logs, things like this, whatever you're comfortable with. The riding, folks, is not important. The riding is the icing on the cake. Anytime people brings me mules that's already been ridden, the riding is not what they need. What they need is groundwork. What they need is come along work, groundwork, and then the mule rider's martingale with the surcingle. Groundwork, build a foundation solid. Everybody thinks about riding. Let's go ride. I see all these videos of mules for sale. They're riding. Number one, they're riding without a breeching. Don't buy that mule. No breeching, don't buy it. They're riding without a rear cinch. No rear cinch, don't buy that mule. Why is that? They're destroying the scapula. Now let's go on, okay? Let's go on. The riding is not the important part. What are they doing on the ground? Now, a very good friend of ours, James, Montana, just got our little mule called, our donkey called Ray. And we've been riding it. It's one we got from Gary Green. And he now has that donkey up in Prescott, Dave. And I showed him on, I showed him on the ground, showed him what the donkey could do. I put him in the saddle, showed him what the donkey can do. Randy rode him as well, showed him what the donkey can do. Now, like I told James, if you can't get along with this donkey, you can't get along with any of them, because that donkey's got a great disposition, but he has firm groundwork. Then that makes the riding a piece of cake.
Awesome. Beth says, I think it'd be hard for most people to believe how much you do for free, Steve. You don't withhold information from people on here to drive a video purchase, and that just says so much about who you are, and that it really is a mission-based love for these creatures and an honest desire to make their lives and the lives of their owners more harmonious. In your videos, you say so many times this is fun. Not enough folks remember that this is what interactions with our animals is supposed to be. I hope you truly do understand the difference you are making for so many of us. Very grateful. That's a very sweet thing to say, Beth. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We'll be thinking of you when we put up those Christmas trees, hang those ornaments. That's fantastic. Isn't that cool, Steve?
Oh, man, I tell you what, Beth just drawed a tear from me. I guarantee you. It's, to hear things like that to me is worth its weight in gold. To hear somebody feels like that I've been able to help them. Used to be, you and I know, I traveled all over the United States. I'd hook up a 40-foot toy hauler trailer to my Dodge truck, and we'd put 15,000 miles a summer on these vehicles, going around helping people. And the fun thing about this show that you designed, Dave, and me calling people on the phone, is I can help more people on the phone and this program right here than I could when I take and go to these different states. Do I still love going and traveling a little bit? A little bit. But I will do some more. But this is fun. Hearing Beth say, wow, I've been able to help her out. And she sees, folks, I do have a love for these mules and donkeys. I can tell you some horror stories that you don't want to hear, but I've changed my ways. So away we go.
Jim says, good afternoon, 48 degrees in Alabama. Cold front just passed from west to east. Sandy is watching. Says, my mule is getting harder to catch in her 12 by 14. She will kick out. I approach from the shoulder. When she turns, I step back. What else can I do?
When she turns, yeah, you can step back. Only problem is you're giving her an easier shot, okay? She can still, from a distance, she can still get you. Stay your feet planted right where they are and hoot and holler at her. Do not swat her on the butt. If you do, she'll kick out in retaliation. But when she gets where she's kind of with outside you, that's a tight pin. That's why I say 20 by 20 gives you enough safety that you can get around. That's a really tight pin. So you might want to think about, for your safety, go to a bigger pin. But otherwise, the best thing you can do, folks, is you always approach the shoulder. If they go to take off, now you want to fix the problem before it becomes a problem. So they're looking at you. You're approaching the shoulder. If they look away from you, stop. Freeze. Step a little bit to the right and watch their eye. When they turn to look at you, stop a minute, walk over toward the shoulder. Don't make a big motion unless they take off. But get yourself in a 20 by 20 pin and get yourself into something bigger, because you got a good chance of getting yourself hurt there.
We got a comment here from Charlene, and before I read it, I just want to remind folks, a lot of times what will happen is we will put videos up on YouTube. Steve, it's after 4. I have a few more minutes. Do you have a few more minutes?
Yeah,
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. We will put some videos up on YouTube, and every now and again, one of those videos will get seen by someone who decides to make some comments about it. And they're usually there's usually just fantastic comments, but every now and again, someone will comment that, hey, this is not the way to treat animals, or that's abuse, or whatever. And you know what? One of the things about this program is we don't back away from any conversation. We'll have any conversation that anybody wants to have. And that really is it. It's a conversation. But what happens sometimes when we post these videos is you'll have folks like Steve who have been working with animals for all his life, mules and donkeys specifically for 40 years, and you'll have Steve really working hard to make sure that the mule is cared for and that the owner, the rider, the handler is as safe as possible. There is no such thing as safe, but is as safe as possible and is prepared to react when reaction is needed. And so what may look like abuse to the uneducated, to someone who loves themselves some cats, dogs, and gerbils, they just don't understand that, hey, if you don't treat the animal like this, it will kill you. This animal will kill you if you do not communicate the way they want. That said, here's what Charlene says. I absolutely love that you don't put up with the BS and you tell people the hard truth. You can't coddle them and let them get away with even the slightest sign of aggression. So many people say, oh, just love them and give them treats. They'll like you and do what you want. That's going to get people killed. I've just seen a whole thread of people talking how cute it is when their horses nip at them for attention. I've seen how that escalates, gotten a few spoiled horses from ignorant people before. One was taught bad tricks. People let him play with zippers and take treats from women's cleavage. That horse picked me up by the front of my jacket and threw me when I went out to him from his stall because I pushed him away when he tried to nose at the zipper. It's not cute. And let's just say he never tried it again with me. Here's one that you've talked about, Steve. Folks, it's coming from another person. And he had a bat and he had bit another woman on the breast real bad because there wasn't a treat in there. Here's the thing, folks. Steve will tell you, I'm going to say it for him. We tell it to you the way it is to respect these animals the way God created them. And they want leadership. And leadership to them does not look like leadership from me to you, or you, your boss to you, or you to your employees, or you to a dog. It's completely different. And so going out there and communicating with them the way the lead mare communicates with them, the ask, tell, demand, that's where it comes from. And folks who think, oh, you're being mean, yeah, there is a mean way to do it. Steve will tell you he's done it the mean way. But the way we do it now is in deep respect for the animal, deep respect for the owner. Steve, anything you want to add on that there?
No, I appreciate Charlene commenting about that because you all have heard me say it too. And now you got another person says it, about these tricks. This dog and pony stuff, folks, is going to get you hurt. I can't believe when I have gone to auctions or someplace that people are selling animals and see the dog and pony shows that these people are trying to sell mules. They crawl between their legs. They stand up on top of them. They fall off of them. Folks, that does nothing to train the mule. It shows that person's ability. It shows the disposition of the mule. But one day, folks, that mule, you crawling between his legs, so to speak, that mule's going to jump up and kick you in the head, and it's over with. Done. Listen, dog and pony show things don't work. If you want to see people that can, in a 10-foot circle, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, side pass. And I showed this to James Montana the other day with Ray the donkey, how he side passed, he turned on the forehand, he turned on the hindquarters. He did it on the ground. He'll do it also in the saddle. But going back, the dog and pony shows of standing up in the saddle, don't buy that mule. The dog and pony shows of walking through water. So what? So what? If they have the ability, if they are truly trained, they'll go across that water. Awesome. If they truly have. What's that?
No, keep going. I thought you were done. Keep going.
No. If they have a true good disposition, they will go across that water. Folks, just because you see them cross water, go through traffic, things, yada, 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 like that, that does not say they're trained. They don't do it. You see them ride up and down the highway, back and forth to show how fast that gate is, how fast their gait is. That gate does no good on the side of a mountain. You spend all that money for a gated mule, and you're riding the trails, folks, it ain't going to work. And let me say one more thing. When you are riding with a group of people, the head of that group needs to ride to the lowest ability of the beginning rider, whatever stage that is. Because if you take off and that beginning rider doesn't know how to handle it, that beginning rider could hit the ground. So going on, that's good for Charlene. That's perfect.
Very good. Steve, we'll just hammer out the answers to these real quick. Kiki asks, is
Okay.
the double twisted wire snaffle bit that you talk about, is it the same for a horse as it is for a donkey and a mule?
I use the same bit on a horse as well. Okay, what few times that I mess with them anymore, but back when I was riding a lot of horses, we're talking 30 years ago, I used the double twisted wire snaffle bit. Now there are a lot of double twisted wire snaffle bits out there. I've got one in particular that I have was had a bit given to me, and we found one that fits it almost perfect, and it works great. But remember, now get this in your mind. Just the double twisted wire snaffle bit by itself is not going to work for you. It's going to create problems. That's why I designed the Mule Rider's martingale, because the downside of just the bit, it will teach the mule to open his mouth, gap his mouth, tighten his all 5 major neck muscles, and you're done. So don't just put the bit in there thinking you're going to fix it.
Very good. Let's see here. Jack says, question about dancing mule when shoeing. I have a come-along rope and adjusted rope halter. My mule has no issues with trimming, filing, and picking the hooves out, but when nailing them, she starts moving. How can I correct this? Be more aggressive with the come-along rope? I have shoeing stocks, but I don't like to use them.
No, forget about the shoeing stocks. Be more aggressive with the come-along rope, okay? Now, let's do this. Do it this way. You've got somebody on the come-along rope. Or if you have to, do it yourself. But here's the thing. When you start sticking nails in there, you got a good chance of getting a leg hung up with a nail, and that's a nasty thing. So you got your come-along rope, put your shoe up there, tap, tap, tap. In a split second, that mule pulls that foot away, you jerk back, and you try to rip his nose off, okay? Go right to a demanding stage right off the bat, because just going to an asking stage ain't going to do it, okay? Now, then you go back again. And as soon as you feel that mule start to move, barely bump the come-along hitch, barely. That'll remind him, hey, remember what you had a few minutes ago? It's going to be worse if you don't stand still. Bump, bump, bump. So it's going to take some timing on your part, or have somebody, again, folks, I talk about timing, or have somebody on the end of that come-along rope that can bump, bump, bump when the time comes. But try not to be driving nails. Try to set the foot up, then the shoe up, and bang, bang, bang. Now, is that all 4 feet that he's pulling away from, or just 1 foot?
Good question. We may wind up getting that to next week, or if you want to message Steve directly, Jack, you can do that, or you can send an email. Lydia says, I love listening to you both, watching from northeastern Ontario, Canada. There we go, international again. Jim is watching from hot Old Town, Florida. Linda says, Steve looks good and sounds good. So it was cutting out there. She's saying it's good now. Ross was asking about the pin. Is 12 by 12 going to be big enough instead of 10 by 20?
A 10 by 20 is my favorite. You can do a 12 by 12, but the thing is the 20 foot in depth gives a place for that mule to go by. And that's really nice. You can try it in a 12 by 12, but it's not as effective. I would suggest a 10 by 20 or 20 by 20, but 10 by 20 is my favorite. It's what I use here on the ranch.
Jackie's got a question, says, I have my horse on a Psyllium regimen first week of the month, and I've been doing that with my new mule, but wanted to see what your thoughts are on that.
Psyllium is a great product. It's also very expensive. You're probably buying it in 5-gallon buckets. I prefer beet pulp. Beet pulp, it does a good job of cleaning. The beet pulp, you wet it and let it soak a little bit and then feed it to them. It ducks really good. You're probably taking the Psyllium and you're either putting it in with grain, or maybe you may even be wetting it and putting it in with pellets. But yes, you can do that. The idea, folks, of Psyllium is this. Psyllium goes into the digestive system, that the large and small intestines, and through the stomach and then out, okay? And you'll see a lot of times this psyllium will be like almost in little jello-looking pads with all that sand in it. What psyllium does is it cleans the sand out of the intestines. How do they get the sand? They're always nibbling on the ground. Even if it's just a little tiny piece of grass, they're nibbling. Now, why do they do that? Their teeth are always chewing like this. They grind their feed. So I tell folks, make sure you get your teeth balanced. Make sure you get the teeth floated so that they don't have teeth problems, the TMJs especially, and that'll help you with that. But yeah, you can feed the psyllium to the mule; they'll do just fine.
Awesome. Let's see if we can roll up here. Mackenzie is watching. Sandy says, so quick answer here, Steve. I need to work my mule in another area and knit in her stall. Size of area. She's wanting to know size of area.
Okay, so I would, you can work them in a 20 by 20, a 40-foot round pen would be good, but try not to train them, folks, in their stall. Try to get them to understand that here's work and here's play and this sort of thing. If you have to do it in their stall, well, you have to. But really, try to build a separate place to do your training. That way the mule can get it into his mind. Don't get in their mind, this is my home, this is my work, and it works.
Mackenzie wants to know, I've got an 11-month old Paso Fino mule, and I'm wondering what is the best thing to feed him?
Well, all the hay, all the roughage you can give them. Of course, my preference is always the Lake and Light. And if you can't get Lake and Light in your country, go read the article, Mules Can't Stand Prosperity. Take the ingredients that I put there, go into your feed store and say, hey, what have you got close to here? But the best thing you can do with that colt is do a lot of groundwork, picking up the feed all the time. But the number one thing, make sure they're trimmed and balanced, framed up, solid. Because here's the problem. Look at all these crooked feet that's on these mules. Why is that? We didn't take care of our babies when they were babies. They're growing leg, they're growing bone, and if their feet are straight and balanced, then you're going to have straight legs. If the feet are not balanced and trimmed up correctly, you're going to have crooked legs. Look at 90% of the mules we got out there, crooked legs because they weren't balanced. So a good Timothy hay, a good grass hay, but no alfalfa. Be sure to look at the carbohydrate base on it.
Okay, just a couple more left here. Albert says, I've got a seasoned riding pack molly I trained to harness last year. She was doing fine. Gradually, I worked her up to pulling weight with shafts, then hooked up to the sulky. Most of this was done in the indoor arena. After she was confident and content, I took her outside and drove her down the road around the farm for a few days. Everything went well. I drove her past other loose horses eating hay, worked her considerably around the outdoor arena, driving her back to the barn. We had a perfect storm accident. Result, I was catapulted off the cart. Mule ran off through the timber, ditches, pasture. I caught the mule and retrieved the harness, what was still on her. I collected the harness, sulky parts. After hospital and healing, I've repaired the harness and sulky. What advice do you have for reintroducing her to the harness and pulling my sulky? Thank you for your help. Al Becker from Central Idaho Mountains, still waiting for the last foot of snow to melt in the lowlands. What's a sulky, Stephen? Stephen, that's my boy's name. What's a sulky, Steve? And then what would you say to Albert?
A sulky can be a one-seat cart with shafts going up the side on both sides of the animal. So my number one thing to you, did you start the mule without blinders? So many people start them with blinders, and then one day something buggers them, and away they go. I always do my surcingle work first with my mule rider's martingale. Get the mule soft in the face. Get them soft in the face. I watch people who think they're driving good. Remember, I've judged a lot of shows, a lot of mules and things like this. They don't realize that nose is sticking out. If the nose is sticking out, you don't have control. You only think you have control, okay? So what advice do I have? Go back, do your groundwork first, ground communication, build that into place. Do your mule rider's martingale on a surcingle. Putting shafts on them and driving them and stuff, dry driving them is okay. But the biggest thing, folks, you can do on your riding, driving donkeys and mules is to put them in a surcingle, make them soft in the face. You can't do enough of it. You need to do that. The come along rope, you can't do enough of it. So what can I tell you? Did you drive them with blinders or without blinders? What kind of bit were you using? There we go. Oh, I'm glad to know you're healing good. I can tell you that I've had a lot of people. If you really want to get hurt, folks, be in a cart or a sulky. If you really want to be safe, get you a wagon with hydraulic brakes on it where you can put hay in the back to hold them brakes down. But most of all, folks, they got to be soft in the face. If you don't have them soft in the face, which the majority of them are not, you're going to have a wreck, and it's just a matter of when.
Linda says, if you need someone who can attest to the humane approach and Steve's methods, let me at them. And I'll tell you all what, one of the things, we haven't really sent a whole lot of people there, but on Steve's, on a Google search, if you just search Queen Valley Mule Ranch, you'll be able to leave a review on Google. And we've had a couple, I'll just call them well-meaning, uninformed people leave messages, and I just reply back to them, give them just a real nice, grateful, hey, if you ever want to actually learn what we're teaching, feel free. Linda, I think you've already left a comment there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link. Let me see. I got to shorten it really quick here. I'm going to shorten this link. Y'all click on it and just go leave a review. If you and let's just keep it honest and with integrity. If you're new and you haven't tested out Steve's stuff yet, go ahead and hold off. But if you've been using Steve's approach, Steve's training, some of Steve's tack, maybe some of Steve's video, maybe you've talked to him on the phone and you have an honest review, like we want you to post that because we would love for other people to see that, yeah, there are a few outliers here who don't work with mules or donkeys but have some thoughts on them. But for the most part, folks who are working with them, they're getting the results they want. So leave a review. I'm going to post this. Just click on that. It'll take you to our Google page, and you can go ahead and leave a review on Google. Let's see here if we've got the last ones.
This is fun.
Yeah, it's great. Looking.
I haven't heard David from Australia. What's going on? We heard him last week.
Haven't seen him this week.
To him.
He's had every opportunity. We're 23 minutes over 4. We'll see if maybe he pops in here at the last second. Okay, Jack was talking about the feet. He says all 4 feet. Thanks, Steve. Training starts tomorrow.
Good for him. We want to hear more. How'd you do?
All right, let's see. I think this is the last one. Patty says, I wonder if you could help me interpret my donkey's body language. I adopted her about 6 months ago. She is 5 years old, very sweet in general, but whenever I pet her, groom her, she walks up to me in the pasture. She always turns her head and neck away from me. She doesn't leave or try to get away. She just always turns away from me. I don't know how to interpret this body language.
Well, she's basically saying, I'm on the edge of leaving you. That's what she is, okay? So get the come along hitch on. Get her to focus on you. Anytime they turn their head away, they're saying, goodbye, I've had enough. Now, she's being nice right now, but she'll eventually just go and walk off and pretty soon run off, and pretty soon you can't catch her. So, folks, anytime you're working with your animals, always keep that brain thinking of you. You're on the left-hand side. You got a left brain. You got a right brain. They don't have the cranial lobe between the right and the left side. So anytime that you're working with them, that donkey, that mule should have an eye on you. Maybe head to be turned completely or maybe an ear on you. But if they're looking the opposite way, bump them with the come along hitch. Tell them to come back over to you.
Awesome. Steve, that's it for this week. We went a little bit long, but I'm happy to say we got every question answered. And if we missed anything, folks, send us a message, support@muleranch.com, and we'll take care of it. But I do my best to get to every single thing before we're done. Anything you want to say before we call it a time, Steve?
No, we're good. Just remember, folks, this Sunday is where the Christians are looking forward to. This is the day of resurrection. It is not the day of the Easter Bunny. So happy Resurrection Sunday, and have an awesome weekend with your family.
Take care, everyone. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you next week. Bye bye now.